I would have to say over the past few weeks, I've just been in that space of like, no, this is all of this coming out to the table to be seen, and it's
Mhm.
going to stay seen. And I'm not gonna shy away from any aspects that I am. Hello, gorgeous.
Hi, beautiful. Just sipping my tea over here. How are you?
You know what? I would say it's been cluster fucking into amazing sauce, into the deepest lows of fuckery on my face, into I'm gonna be so joyful, and then I'm gonna get smacked a little bit. I'm gonna be like, okay, right.
Well, I was not expecting that. Oh, that's so funny. I'm just like processing that for a minute because I relate. Like, it's weird. This time feels weird. And I guess I almost feel a little bit disassociated. Maybe that's my current coping mechanism. I feel like a bit floaty and a bit like, what's going on? Like, I guess I'm really grasping to some present moments and just really being in the present moment, but I'm not feeling like usually I'm processing things and thinking about things and da, da, da. And I am still doing that in my own way, but I don't know, it just feels different right now. It just feels like everything feels a bit slower but faster at the same time. I don't know how to human word it.
It'd be like that for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's like sometimes in my physical body, it's so slow that I'm like, these days go by and I'm like, I don't even know what time it is. And then other times I can see the speediness everywhere else and I'm like in slow motion. And sometimes I'm really speedy and everything else is like really slow. And I'm like, you know what? I'm taking it a day and a step at a time
Mhm.
because I'm only going to bring my real self to the table. And the fact of the matter is it's this wavering large piece where I'm feeling the absolute deepest shit that I've ever felt, ever. Remembering the most that I ever have, like on a soul level into my physical body. And then having these spaces where I feel totally maniacal and crazy.
Literally. Literally.
Like, oh my God, I am a crazy bitch right now. And then I'll have these really fun, beautiful joy pieces come into the play of it, but it's this whole immersive process, and it's not
Mhm.
one thing or the other. It's expanding to all of that and seeing how well like my body can handle it and what I want to do with that. Is that in my alignment phase, and what is my truth in all of this? And I think that's the biggest thing that I've hit. Like, what is my truth? How am I going to stand in that? And what am I going to keep walking as in myself?
Yeah. Yeah. What powerful questions to self as well though. Like, yeah, I don't feel ever lost it for words, but all of a sudden in this moment, I'm like, how do I word what is going on in life right now? How do I word it? It is, yeah, and I think what you said is what is my truth is ringing home really loudly because what a roller coaster. I feel like I bef a lot of the time I relate to having children because that was like a COVID time for me. That was like a 2020 time for me. It was a whole rebirth. And so I do refer to that time a lot because it was like the version of me before my physical life changed and the version of me after. Don't get me wrong. Before I had children, I went through many death and rebirths, but
Yep.
this was completely different. This was such a physical transformation in such a short amount of time that was like one of the most profound rebirths for me. So when I talk about it a lot, it's on a spiritual level, it is because it was one of the most spiritually transformative experiences for me to go through. And I
Yep.
do think if you are like surrendering to it, it really is, it can take you for a wild ride, but it is genuinely one of the most beautiful, expansive, and like transformative experiences as a being you can go through. And I look back to before I had kids, and I think I actually thought I knew who I was, and I really did. Like, I'd spent 10 years in hospital and I'd just got out of that. I'd like figured out my mind, body, soul. And, I was doing readings and I'd done my first retreat. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go traveling and like this whole plan of my life and what I was going to do. And then obviously I had a fee and everything shifted to like what I even wanted to do. And the thing that shifted the most was who actually am I
Yep.
and what does that look like? Because I think what I thought was me before was actually not. It was human stuff. And that is a part of my human. And I'm not
Yep.
denying that was a part of who I was as a human. But it wasn't who I actually was because I wouldn't have felt so lost and disconnected,
Yep.
if it was just from those human things, in my opinion. It was more of a sense of I spent a lot of time before sat with myself, journaling, waking up in the morning, little herbal tea, little incense on, and spending like ceremonial time with myself.
Yep.
And losing that was like a real grieving thing. And I think the whole point of this is I didn't actually know who I was before, and I don't actually know who I fully am now because we're always evolving. And I think after having children, I was searching for me again. And I was like, well, I need to get back to that version who knew she was. But that was
Yep.
like ego. It
Yeah.
was just because in that version, I had to be a certain version to be me.
Yeah.
Like there was certain terms and conditions and ways to behave
Yep.
that maybe was not honoring my honest truth and what is my truth in that moment. It
Right.
was more honoring who I'm supposed to be, and that's an image and that's an ego. And going through this journey of becoming a mum twice in 2 years has been just a whole. I mean, and the comparison difference between my two babies
Yeah.
is wild, like
Yep.
wild. So I have had the completely two opposite experiences. And yeah, I think I still don't know who I am. I still don't know the full version of me, but I'm starting to figure out my voice more and my truth. And obviously, pregnancy made me affirm that with my choices of pregnancy and birth. I
Yeah.
knew that loud and clear. And I have certain things and pathways that I know loud and clear. But yeah, I guess this week has been a real eye opening experience to who am I without survival mode? Who am I without the nervous system dysregulation and
Yeah.
the overwhelm? Like, who actually am I
Totally.
underneath all of that? And yeah, it's been I can't give you an answer, but I've definitely been questioning it so deeply this week. And maybe I've been questioning it differently to what is my truth and more so like what feels right for me right now, who feels right to be around,
Right.
what energy work feels right to do around who, and what natural vibration is mine without feeling defensive and on edge and fight or flight. Like, what actually is my natural calm vibration without that energy interfering. And there's been so many layers I've had to unpick, but I still feel very clouded about
Yeah. Yeah. I get that totally. I feel like I'm not questioning my truth and who I am anymore. I'm not like it comes in as a natural facet and I'm like surprised, like, oh, hey, look, that's me in
it.
this
Yeah.
moment. My truth is right there. And I've found for myself there's certain facets that are solidly me that I go through and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, that's a solid piece of myself. I
Hmm.
fully embrace that. I accept that. That's not shifting.
Yeah.
It can grow into something that is, more expansive, but that certain aspect is a part of me that's sticking around. And
Yeah. Yeah. I call them anchors. They're like your
yep,
little anchor
yep,
points. And
yep,
again, after becoming a mum, dancing, music, singing, painting, like a lot of these are physical human expressions, but they're an anchor to my spirit expressing itself in human form. And
right.
that was like a real pathway home, plant medicine and ceremonies. A lot of that was like my anchor into pathway back to self.
Yeah, that's the one that I chose too.
Hey
The
man,
cheap version of myself.
I'm back again.
Went back in, and then I went back in. I'm like, oh, hey, look, there I am again. I'm gonna try this one. Hey, look, this is taking me the same place. Nah, because that's you. Oh, right, right, that
Right.
is me. That's
No, it really is. And like we were talking about before, the fire, the passion and the fire, like I'd tamed that a lot. And reintroducing that energy into my life lately, it's been like, oh, I actually forgot that that was such a big part of me. I
yeah,
actually forgot that that is who I am. And that's not, again, aggressive or defensive. It's just having firm boundaries and knowing how to assert them with power and passion and not being ashamed or feeling guilty for that, feeling afraid
totally.
of that.
And
But go on, sorry.
no, I was gonna say, like, I would say that that was been like at least some of the biggest stuff that I've worked through the last little while is what are my boundaries? What do they look like? And making and knowing too that this is a canvas, so those are going to change most likely into something a little bit more or deeper, okay, or just a complete no, shift out,
Yeah.
right? But it's also been like I'm going to say it firmly. I'm going to say it once. I'm not going to explain myself. That's it. Okay. I don't care what the reaction is. I'm open to talking about it. I'm not going to shut off love because I set a boundary.
Yeah.
Right. And I think
Yeah.
those are the things that have been at least decent lessons for me and not just this lifetime. It's been like a continuous process where I'm like, oh, right, I can do that and still be myself and still be in my loving space and also to like be very direct because I've got a kick of extra fucking spice in me.
A little bit of extra chili hot sauce on.
Some chili in there is like, oh damn, she coming out.
It's so funny. I always joke because I really can't eat spicy food. Like I don't like spice at all, and I'm like, listen, I'm spicy enough. I don't need any extra, because
Yeah, yeah,
I
I do
really
that too.
don't. It's just I can't handle it, and it just sets me off. So I'm like, no, it's I've got enough spice living within me that I don't need to add any extra into
Fair.
the pot. But
Yep.
I do think like this. So obviously we've come on Lionsgate. I keep put my cup of tea right
Yep.
on the camera. We've come
Please.
on the yeah, just like right there. No offense. I forget because technological issues. I mean, better this week, thank jeez. But
Yep.
my laptop actually fully died on this, so I'm using an iPad today. So I'm having to get used to a new
Hey.
location of camera. But yeah, so the today was obviously the Lionsgate portal on the 8th of the
Yep.
8th. It
Yep.
was meant to do 8 p.m., but was running late, so it's actually at 9 p.m. on my time, and it will be at 8 p.m. your time
Nice.
anyway. So, but yeah, most of the time we're there for the 8th of the 8th on half there. So we just wanted to tune in about that because, this experience, I've called it, so let me just like humanize this a sec. The way I've seen this is a friend of mine on Tuesday night helped me humanize the words as well. Like,
Uh-huh.
we are bringing in more than just a fractal. So we've been speaking about this aspect, this integration for like 5, 6 weeks now. We've done quite a few episodes of the different facets, of the
Right.
different emotions. And again, if you've missed that, check it out. I think it was episode 13 onwards. We've been talking about the different aspects of this integration and how that's been like navigating through us as humans and as women a lot of the time from our perspectives.
Right.
And I was talking with someone the other day and I was explaining the past life fractal that I retrieved in Wales on my recent trip.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And that was like really physically intense for me. I had to really integrate on a physical level. And I'm not used to doing that at the moment because with the children, it's really hard to do. And it was hard to do. And I was like going deeper into it and asking like, what's going on? And I was looking at it on the overall and wondering like, how do we see this aspect? How do we explain it?
Yep.
Because if we have the inner child, there's not just one version of our inner child. There's
Totally.
not just one Anya, one Z. There's
Yep.
like
Yep.
hundreds and so many from each day of being a child. Each moment, we don't know the
Exactly.
infinite amount of how many inner childs we have, but we
Yep.
know it's a collective of
Yep.
our inner child.
Yep.
Same with our inner teen, and same with other aspects of self. Now, this sacral self, woman, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, I've called it the sacral self. Choose your own words, they're mine. Not saying you can't use them, but that's my interpretation. That's my interpretation. This aspect is the same, it's a collective. And
Yep.
so we've had to like literally digest multiple facets and aspects of this
Yes.
wide, expansive collective of
Exactly.
energy in the sacral space. And for me, it's really interesting that it's timed around the Lionsgate portal because that is when things are like creating and fruitful and
Yep.
abundance and, speeding up and amplified and things are brought out of the darkness into the light. And it's kind of really good, perfectly timed and synced up with what we're actually going through as a collective. And men are experiencing this too, but just in a different way through the masculine energy. It's just a different experience at the moment. But obviously, from a woman's perspective, in the overall, this collective that we're processing, we're going to have multiple like past lives, multiple fractals, multiple
Yep.
traumas and triggers and programs and wounds and ancestral wounds and witch
Right.
wounds
Yep.
of
Agreed.
being burnt at the stake and being held unjustly and being what's the word, like condemned for using magic and herbal wisdom and nature and plant medicine in the past. Like, guaranteed, if you're in this work, you'll have been burnt at the stake once or twice for doing the work that we do now, and that lives in us, a part of
Any other
us. And
things.
yeah, it's there, it's
Yep.
there, and
Yeah,
we're
no, no,
reclaiming it.
it's there for sure. And
Mhm.
and I love this. I'm going to circle this right here because each one of these inner child pieces, which has an infinite number of other
Yeah,
fractal pieces to it, because we're in an infinite universe and many parallels for each one of
right.
us, okay, which has a slightly different inflection in perspective. Okay, we're calling all of those back, and now you
Mhm.
can see why this is a shit show of fuckery sometimes.
Yes,
But
yes, girl.
but your nervous system is like going, okay, look, there's this perspective, and oh fuck, there's a billion more. Look, and all of a sudden you're processing all of those ticks all at
Right.
once. Okay, every
All at
different
one time.
inflection, and it takes the time that it takes, and of course, like who's not gonna feel entirely insane while you're processing a billion
Right.
fractals and their infinite possibilities all at one time?
All at one time
Right.
simultaneously for multiple lifetimes. Because if I always thought and got confirmed that if you are this aware in this lifetime, most likely you are the most aware fractal of your oversoul. So for those that haven't heard, like the oversoul, the way I break it down, real simple, it's like a big mirror. You
Yep.
smash it in a million pieces. Every piece of that mirror is a fractal of that oversoul, which is
Oh,
the mirror, the frame, and then we are one of them fractals. But we are obviously quite a big shard to have this much awareness and expansion in this human experience. So I believe that we carried more awareness than most of the others, and that's why we're calling them home. And so, question Z. So let's talk a little bit about that because that's a bit deeper, but I think there'll be people that understand and people that are resonating with this. And so I went to Wales and I was connecting with the ETs the night before because we went camping and it was literally stars like this and
ooh, I
it
love
was
it.
all clouds at first, right? Clouds all over. And then I was like, come on, like, it's like, come on, come talk to me. I always say if you're going to connect of the highest heart frequency,
Uh-huh.
so that's a good one for me. So I'm like, if there's any beings of the highest heart frequency that are able to connect of this love and light frequency, then connect with me. And that just clears out that make sure you're not want to be working with anything of a lower frequency. So always set your boundaries with, don't just go, oh, hi, come live with me. Make sure you're setting your boundaries of who, what, where, why, when, because that's real important. And so I was sat outside talking to them and was got a few messages and some lovely things. And I definitely felt some form of familiarity, but it was like a bit uneasy.
Okay.
And I got the message of sunflowers, look out for sunflowers. And I was like, okay. And my friend next to me got the message to look out for lilies. And that was that. Talked a bit. Da, da, da. Next day, we're walking around this town in Wales, not like about half an hour from the campsite. And I bought my son a magnet of a sheep. And as we're like, for the fridge, and as we're walking, my friend spots this house and she's like, oh, look at that house. And I got full body shivers. And then I looked at the magnet and it had sunflowers on it. And I'd not seen them. I'd bought it like 10
Oh,
minutes
wow.
before. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, okay. And I went to tell my friend and she went, look, there's lilies there. And I was like, oh, damn, this is getting real weird because it was like
Yep.
at the
Yep.
same time, boom, boom, boom. And so I started getting loads of downloads information. And it was a past life and it needed clearing, bringing back home, all this information. I started getting images and, words and stories, whatever you want to call it. And so we're walking on, and then I see an eagle statue, and then there's a picture of a blackbird, which are all my like spirit birds that work with me. And so I'm getting more confirmation, more activations, more downloads. And then we was talking about how to integrate. So I have never felt comfortable integrating an aspect through my body. So I always say, please go up to higher self and oversoul, and then whatever needs to come back into my human experience will come back into my human
Right.
experience. Knowledge, wisdom, whatever, skills, memories.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how I've always done it. But we were talking about me and my friend, and she was like, no, I've heard other people do it this way. And I'm thinking, maybe I should try it the other way. So I did. And then the whole 2 days, I spent it being sick, dizzy, like really bad memories. And I actually held physical trauma in my body that I had to go like sit in the shower. Luckily, we had a shower at camping in the facilities. And I was there for like 40 minutes, like physically washing this trauma away and like really holding myself like I'd experienced this emotion. And I thought, wow, that was so intense. And I know people that do it that way. And I'm not saying it's wrong, But for me personally, that was not the right way to process that. And I learned that lesson again. And again, I received other information. It kept carrying on for like 3 days till I closed the loop and did
Yes.
the
Yes.
finished work. But it was really wild. And I guess part of me thinks like, did I choose to experience that because that aspect had to be integrated that way? Or was that a lesson to know that maybe that way of integrating is not what I should be doing, or what maybe those
Right.
that are empathic and that do feel a lot should
Yep.
not be doing? I just
Right.
wanted to get your perspective.
Yeah, I would say that the way of integrating has changed and shifted, at least
Mm-hmm.
from my perspective. Now, if I'm looking at like the oversoul, it's the entire fractal for me of your very point of creation, your very spark source piece. It carries all of that, and it's the direct line to source. And then you have all these little fractals that come out of that are their own little
Right.
spirals. Those are their own experiences moving its way through. And then I would say, I agree with you in this time and space, at least I know for myself in my experience that this is the most aware piece that I have because
Mm-hmm.
all of those, I'm very aware of all of my other fractals and how they're experiencing, and I talk to them all the time. They are co-aligning right now.
Yeah.
Yep, which is what we're doing. And that's all being shifted down into the body from my perspective. So I'm shifting the paradigm into we're descending
Okay.
because all of that is being embodied, right? It's all
Right.
coming into being embodied. So we're not going anywhere looking in all these places to do it. Like our bodies and our nervous systems are the ones who are connecting with these pieces, remembering them, and being able to regulate with all of that imprinting.
Interesting. Okay. So with that, just so I get clarity, with that experience that I had, was that my body adjusting to a newer way of integrating, or was that me learning that that way is not aligned for those that like feel things quite intensely?
I would say there's a duo here. I think it has to do with a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think because I
Hmm.
can see like the split in that going,
Yeah.
hey, this is the way that I'm experiencing. There's also another way to start to integrate
Right.
this,
Hmm.
right, where it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be that intense. And also, too, like I know with my body and the way that it's interacting, how it's working with this communication aspect of it, there are times where it needs to go that deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
That's what I was
it
thinking.
just
I was
needs
like,
to
was
feel
that
it.
needed? Yeah.
It needs to feel it because I've worked through these processes where like, oh look, that was actually a simple integration, and we did that in an entirely different way, and that's awesome. And this piece is not like that. This piece is like, fuck, I got
Yeah. Right. Right.
otherwise, like I'm denying, and I've noticed that like I have this resistance to having to
Like
go
spiritual
that deep,
bypassing.
right? The
Hmm.
bypassing piece that's like,
Hmm.
that's real. That's real. And I feel like there's another way to do this, and it's not the case, right? That's me going, okay, I'm gonna surrender right now. Yep,
Mm.
that's all I've got. For me, though, in this particular perspective, it's been me being seen in that.
Yeah, no, yeah, I see that.
Like
I
just
hear that. I hear that loud and clear. Because, well, like you say, everything's up to personal interpretation. There's multiple factors that go on, and it will be different for everyone that experiences it. And like I said, I'm not saying it anyway is wrong, because I know
exactly.
a lot of people
Exactly.
that do it that way. It's just I really questioned, like, because it was so like a few days and sickness, and I was
Sure.
like, man, and I was on a boat, and I was not on that boat. I was somewhere completely else, and it
Yeah,
was
I get
like,
it. Yeah.
what is going on, and I've had experiences like this before, but it's so hard with children, like with babies too, and it's like, guys, I need to be in this realm, this dimension, in this body,
Now.
please,
Yep.
like right
Yep.
now.
Yep. Yep.
My son's trying to climb off the boat. Can you not send me in a trance, please? I need to be present. And
Yep.
so it was like, yeah, it was a lot of lessons learned. And I guess it's like learning, like you said, new ways to integrate, new ways to hold it in the body, and not bypassing, and also learning all these different aspects and looking what works for you and what's aligning and what's,
Right.
flowing with ease, and also then what sometimes does have to be sat with. And yeah, what comes with that, because as much as the dark nights of the soul are there, so are the rising, so are the empowerment, so are the voicing that comes from that, so is the remembrance of the fire. And definitely this aspect that came in, she'd been through a lot, but she held so much power and voice, and I think that's so like resonant to what I'm going through now, and so it was obviously relevant. And I think maybe I did need to sit with it like that to fully hold space for her expansion.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm,
I had that with a piece last night, with actually a
yeah.
pieces that were just very, it was this dive into a sovereignty, a very deep sovereignty, and just being done with the processes that have been the way that they have been.
Mm-hmm.
Very big cry. And my body was like, I would like to go under this blanket right now. I would like to go in the corner right now.
Yep. Yep.
And, I was with somebody, and it was my body recognizing that that is something that has needed to be before, and it wasn't the case now. And she said, I'm going to welcome the uncomfortability, and I'm going to do this with somebody, and it's going to be real deep. And I'm going
Mm.
to allow the process to be what it is. And that was the shift in that. It was just to be in that. And my body realigned that. But I gotta tell you, there was some deep rage in there. It was like,
Right.
ah.
No, it is. It really is. And I was listening to this song today. I can't remember what it's called, Morgan St. Jean something, and it's called Not All Men, I think. And it was it is quite profound. It is quite direct. But I was listening to it, and I've heard it before, but not like this today. It was different today. And I was listening in the car, and it was like every word was not just speaking to me and my human experience in this lifetime.
Yeah, yeah,
It was like speaking to all of the versions of me that had experienced this, and
yes,
also like the future version of me that is protecting and current, that's like leading a new path for my children.
yeah,
You know, especially both son and daughter. You want to make sure that as a woman, that she's able to walk with strength, power, but not invert into the masculine like we've all had to survive. And so it's like this dance. And I was listening to this song, whoa, and the activations that came, but it was also like sacred rage. And I feel like that is a key theme right now. It's, as much as we've got this Lion's Gate energy and it can be interpreted in all the ways, the Lion's Gate is like a ferocious roar. It's
yeah,
I'm here, and I'm here to fuck shit up, and I'm here to change energies, and I'm here to
yeah,
create awareness to things that are not being seen. And
right.
how aligned is that with bringing everything out that we need to get out to move forward and to feel more free?
Totally. Totally. And
Mm.
I mean, that's been my theme, regardless if it's the portal or the not. I would have to say over the past few weeks, I've just been in that space of like, no, this is all of this coming out to the table to be seen, and it's
Mm.
going to stay seen. And I'm not gonna shy away from any aspects that I am. And
Right.
I am because I am a wide spectrum of a collective, like every soul being is here. And, for me to go in those spaces, it was me. And I remember so many of these spaces. Like it is very visceral, like I know. And I can go
Mm.
into those. But right now, I'm like all aspects of you, just like you said with the activation with this song, all aspects of me who have been running that line. And actually, all of them are like this now. I want these all consolidated for my highest and best. That's no longer necessary. Okay, come
Mm.
back and bring it back to home, right? That's why I say come
Yeah.
back, fuel my body. Gonna descend into my reality and hold it there. Okay, because essentially the ascension process, we're already those frequencies. We already
Mhm.
carry those frequencies, right? We've been working with this physical body who's a spaceship to like understanding what that is, and we're moving through those spaces, but it's all viscerally around us. We're bringing it in.
Right. Right. And I love what you just said there, because it's like people don't realize, time, the concept of time, as we've spoke about, and
Yeah,
as many people have spoke about, like the present is really the only thing that's tangibly going on in this current moment,
yeah,
because the past is something that we have access to at all times in the astral realm and the
right.
spirit realm. And
Yeah,
so we can't change you probably could, but the physical, like factual experience. But what you can change is your emotional charge, your
right.
reaction, your connection to that experience. And so, whenever like I do any inner child work or inner team work, when you're seeing and experiencing that experience with that inner child and that inner teen, it's not about leaving them there to keep experiencing
Right.
that and to keep sitting in that loop. It is about bringing them home with you, and whatever that looks like, whether that's to your higher self, whether that's with you in your body, whether that's to source, like whatever that manifest as in the easiest natural way to, oh, in the natural way to you.
In the natural ways.
That teaches me for swinging back like a little kid. Just having joy while I'm on my video. But yeah, I use also a magnet, like a horseshoe magnet,
Oh, I
and
love that.
that's a good one for me because it like brings all the aspects of that facet in at one time. And so I sit there like on a meadow or whatever, and I'm working with the aspect of the inner child at that time, and then I'll call all aspects that are ready and aligned to come back to home in at one time. And so it just kind of brings it a bit faster. And that can be done with any aspect in any collective, whether that's the inner child, the inner teen, the sacral self, you know, versions of us in the previous adult self, you know, anything like that. But it's just setting the intention. Intention is key.
It is. It is
Mm-hmm.
key. And
Mm.
it will continue to stay key. I feel like even more so, get more clarity on that feeling
Yeah.
and attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those. I did this a couple of weeks ago. I had this teenage part that I was working with. This is a teenage boy, and it came up, and it was the constant loop. I'm just a teenage dirtbag,
Oh, I
baby.
listened to that the other day.
Like it just kept going. I'm like, okay, I'm listening to you. What's going on right now? And it was this gamer that I have, this teenage gamer, and he's absolutely brilliant. He looks at all these aspects, is super quick, super nerdy as all get out. And he needed to come back home and he needed to realign with the divine masculine and consolidate all of these platforms and spaces and places where that
Interesting.
aspect was not accepted, which was many
See.
spaces, that nerd aspect where they're completely they're so brilliant, right? So brilliant. And yet, like, it's such a perspective of like you need to step up as a man. You can't do that your entire life. You can like so I was running through all these perspectives and I was like, oh, that's deep, my brother.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
what I did
Interesting.
with this instead of other perspectives that I've worked with is I said, I'm gonna hold your hand and we're gonna walk with this together. I'm gonna just be with that. And he got to show me how he perceived realities, how he made his gameplay, right? How he played with games, how he worked at certain quantum physics and certain realms and and it was really beautiful to see. And he just needed to be seen in that fully and know that that was acceptable and cry
Mm.
out these unworthiness pieces and then he was like, "Okay, I'm in the game now. We're gonna be fully
Wow.
embodied." And it came in my body, and it was really beautiful because it was certainly like I was a definite nerd for a good. I was,
I love that.
I was nerding
That's
it,
so funny.
and I love that part of myself. So I was like, "Okay, how would you like to be represented?" Okay, so I
Nice.
definitely had this mass nerd running through there for.
No, I do love that though, because I think obviously I have had experiences as a masculine, but definitely not as often and not as recent. And I suppose I struggle with sometimes I do try I see the perspective in the human, but I think on a spiritual level, I do struggle to actually like see their experiences and what they're going through at the different times and how that's manifested in both the masculine and feminine. It does appear very foreign to me, the way it's coming in through the masculine. And so I don't quite understand it. And I think that's what I struggle with. And it's like, yeah, it's like this unfamiliarity and unknown territory. But to hear that perspective and to hear like the same emotional pressures, but just manifested in a different way through, you know, worthiness, but through a different narrative, like that was really interesting. So I'm really grateful that you shared that as well. And
Yeah,
I think it helps us talking about this, as fucking wild as it sounds, some people like, what are you talking about? All these different aspects and versions of self, and like, what? But really simply put, obviously, I'm fully aware that I'm me and you live in this lifetime in this body.
yes,
The way I see it is they're not necessarily like personalities of this human.
right,
It's more of my oversoul. And I always have connection to that oversoul, just like I have connection to source. And so I just have more access to like a direct link of a version of me that is connected, like a version of my soul that has lived a lifetime, gained different skills, different knowledge, different wisdom that I now have access to with my human consciousness because my humans are at a level to comprehend that and to
right,
work with them dimensional planes. And so it's not that I'm under the belief that that version of me is then becoming part of Anya. Like, I don't see it that way. Some people might, but I don't. I see it as more, no, that's becoming part of my soul, which me as Anya has access to at all times. And
Right,
so it's like, yeah, it's a facet of the oversoul, which as a consciousness being with conscious awareness to them dimensional planes,
right,
we
right.
have contact and connection too. And it's like,
I like that.
of course you can download this stuff. Of course you can remember and connect with these versions. Like,
Absolutely.
what do you think happened before this great forgetting, this great
Right, right,
memory wiping that went on? Like when people talk about Western medicine, I'm like, you do realize it's existed for like 200 years. Like, what do you actually think?
right,
Do you think everybody just died before? Everybody just had the lifespan of 18 because they told you for a few hundred years that everybody died. Like, what,
right. Yeah, yeah.
what's going on? Like, come on,
What do you think?
come on now.
Exactly, exactly. Like, well, I mean, to be honest with you, the majority of these spaces and our connection point has been here the entire time. And I would say, like, from my experience, the very first humans had that real connection, and I just got super lost in there, because they did bring all these plant medicines forward. How did they
Right,
discover that?
right,
Like,
exactly. You know, there's hundreds of books and scriptures and wall art and all these things going
exactly,
between that,
exactly.
and it's like, come now, like, but in the same way we were talking about the portal energy earlier, like, how do we say this without saying nothing's real? But it's kind of the point I'm saying. Everything's real, but nothing's real at the same
Yep,
time. So the
yep,
time, the energy, the dimensions, the everything. It's like a video game. It's one of the realest ones
that's
you'll ever
right.
play. And
Yep,
like the connection to your children and your partner and your family and your friend, like that shit's real because that's the only thing that we actually take with us after we leave this human body. So that's the realest shit of all. But everything else is a version of the physical illusion playing itself out, which is wonderful. Let's play the game, lovely. But don't deep it so much. Don't get so overwhelmed by that bill and that mortgage and that house and the garden and the jobs. And
right,
I'm talking to myself too here because the human experience is suffocating sometimes and it feels like, oh, it's the end of the world. When in reality, it is just this small human experience to this ever expansive version of you. And after we do leave this shell, we have the connections that we made in this body, and that's what remains. And so,
right.
work on the connections with yourself, with other people that you are connected to on a soul level,
Yep,
and keep that as your priority in life. And work with this energy that's coming through now as an amplification
right.
to finding your truth. I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning, Z. Like,
Yeah.
what is your truth and what does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. What does that feel like to you?
Mm.
And for me too, it's knowing more of myself, and that gamer aspect of myself is how I've always been, more so.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, and my body was like, so I'm just gonna say that that is more me than anything else, and we're gonna
Mm.
inflect that aspect because that is something that needed to be turned back on and worked with. But it was also the acceptance of I'm gonna go into this masculine so that I can understand it,
Right. Like
start
that,
receiving things,
yeah.
and
I
it was
see that.
deep. It took me a good few days to be like, oh, shit,
Yeah, I see that. I
and
don't
it
think I
is,
would have navigated that like you did because you have that dual
yeah.
experience as a soul, and I think that that takes a lot to experience in both a woman's body with that masculine experience. Like that must have been a big pill to swallow, as you
That
say in
was
this
it
other
was a
word.
fat pill, man. And I just been working with the feminine and diving into that piece of it. And I'm like, okay, let's go with this masculine. And I'm like, I'm gonna just be really honest right now that our feminine is just as hard on that masculine, man. The way that they've been
Mm,
perceived, how they've worked their way through and how they work their emotions. It's like, they really are, they're very different, but not as different as we think. They're still
yeah,
walking these lines and learning how to be like, okay, without all of the perceptions that the females have given them, which would be like, like get masculine, get stronger, like buff it up, do all the things to cover those into like if they express emotions, then it's like, okay, he's just a soft one. He's not gonna, like there was so many perspectives that I was like,
yeah.
and I've totally done that from the feminine side. My feminine was like talking to him, being like, I'm glad that you saw my rage because that's all I wanted you to see and you sat with that. this is a whole other ball game, and I'm really sorry that I have also done that to you because,
Yeah,
you know, that's just as expressive. So I like to walk this through.
100%. And I do see that. Like, I have had many experiences with the masculine, both good and bad. And like, I've had very raw emotional conversations with masculine energies, sometimes quite conflictual, never like,
Yeah,
aggressive, but, emotional and like raw and speaking from deep truth.
right.
And when I've heard that perspective, it has shocked me. Like, well, I didn't not think that you experienced that in that way. Like, because a lot of the times it is shocking because it's the same. Like, we sit there as women and think that they don't understand. And don't get me wrong, I do think there's some things as a woman that men won't understand, like the feeling of being prey and that predatorial energy. I think
Yep,
that that is something
yep.
that women carry a lot. In the
Oh,
same
totally,
respect, there's things that as a woman we will never understand about being a man. And
totally.
so it balances out in the same way. But we're hearing their raw perspective, as much as sometimes it's like hell of triggering,
Yep.
it is like it takes me back a little bit and it makes me sit there. And I think that's why I have such a willingness to make it work, because I mean, I'm around a whole range of different feminine and masculine energies at like
Yep.
polar opposite, and I love that because I learned so much from it. And, being witness to this expansion lately, I think that's why I do have, like I said, that willingness to keep showing up and keep trying to make harmony and balance, because I see some women that have like washed their hands, don't want anything to do with the masculine energy whatsoever because they're so wounded, and
Yep.
obviously rightfully so in some ways for their experience at where they're currently at in their healing journey.
Sure.
I totally respect that. And then some men the same, completely, women on this projecting negativity from their own pain.
Yep.
And then there's some that are like allowing complete disrespect on both sides, and allowing that to be dishonored of the divine feminine and masculine and in all ways. And then I feel like there's a lot of these people, it's like 80% of the collective that are in this like battle between trying to fight for better alignment and like more, connective space.
Sure.
And yet I feel this battle's been going on this week, a big deal, like quite a big,
Yeah. Yeah.
can't get words out right now, but you know what I'm saying? There's been a lot going on with this specific topic. And
Yeah.
I felt like we got to experience a frequency and a timeline for like 4 days of what it could potentially be like in a place of understanding, safety for each other, nurturing,
Yep.
awareness, kindness,
Yep.
effort, seeing vulnerability, voicing. Like, I was like, wow, this energy in this timeline feels so accessible. Like, this harmony, this peace felt so accessible. And then it shifted back down after like 4 days. And I hate to say it, but I still feel like it's been that lower down stuck time right now. And it's quite, it was so interesting. And I can only talk from being a woman.
Yep.
But
Yep.
as a woman, in my nervous system, whoa, it was like I went on a 5-star all-inclusive trip to the Bahamas because
Yep.
your
Yep.
gal's
Yep.
nervous system
Yep.
rested,
Yep.
like
Yep.
rested on a deeper level. I have not rested like that for
Yep.
forever, I don't think. Like, and then obviously when it shifted, I felt the shift and there was such a resistance. I was like, no, don't take that away. Because my nervous system was going back into fight or
Right.
flight, back into it. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, it was like putting on this heavy suit of armor that I really didn't want to put back on, but felt like I had no choice but to do other than to survive. And it's like, okay, so I see all this going on. But yeah, I'm still participating in this armoring up, and I'm like, okay, is this the right thing to be doing right now? Or is this a test of releasing an old program and pattern, which I do think it is. I'm on them lines. But the way through this test, I am so unsure of right now. And I feel like I'm just figuring it out. But I'm sure that if we're experiencing on this level, then this is a big collective thing between men, women, relationships,
Sure.
all different types of relationships,
All that running through.
masculine, feminines, all the
Yep.
vibes.
Yep. Yeah. No, I can also co-align with that in that balance that I felt too for a period of time. And what I came out of that for myself was how much longer can my nervous system hold that? Right?
Right,
Can
right.
how much okay, can I hold that? Can I hold that before it starts to go, it's just a little unsafe now.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah,
doing?
yeah.
It's
That
like
is
we're
literally
going,
me.
okay, it's safe, like, and I allow my body, my nervous system to really viscerally experience it and then let it interwork how it's going to work with going, okay, how much more of that could you actually handle and maybe take it a step at a time, Let's see the next time around we could see maybe more and more of it or, but it is like it's like my nervous system is testing the waters just to see like
That
oh,
makes sense.
my
That makes
experience,
so
discuss
much
my
sense.
experience. Can I hold that? I'm going down a little bit.
That makes so much sense. So like I'm glad you said that because I felt really disheartened and really disappointed when that energy shifted and I was like, damn, is that something I did? Is that something like why did that happen? And I felt really disheartened and like disappointed and almost in fear that it would never come back in that way and like it was just a false, like I doubted it. I guess I kind of felt like, well, what was that? Is it real? Would it come back? Will it stay? Like, and it was really a little bit upsetting, I guess was the right word, because I felt the unknown again, that control freak in me, like, where have you gone? Come back. What's going on? What you did a million questions,
Yep,
And
yep,
yeah, I
yep.
had to sit with it and trust that it'll all be right how it is. But I definitely felt uncomfortable having to shift back into that fight or flight protection. Like my body's cringing now at the thought. I felt
Yep.
small, and
Yeah.
I feel restricted. And it's like I don't how much longer can I keep living almost like how much longer can I keep living like this in this energy? Like once I've had a taste of that freedom, it felt like in nervous system, I really didn't want to go back. And so it's kind of gave me an extra drive to figure out a way to make that more of a natural state for me.
Right. Yeah.
Mm. Don't know
Yeah.
how I'm going to do that yet, but we'll get
No,
there.
we don't have to know how. I feel like that's the platform that we're working with. It's like, how do I get back to that state? That's my
Right?
system too. It's just bringing all these in to be like testing. Okay, but do you actually like that? I do like that. Okay, I want more of that. Let's try it again.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, my body's like, yeah, please, yes.
Please, let's go back to that space. And that
Yeah,
and that timeline is right there. It's just your nervous system is going, okay, I'm gonna resonate at that frequency for a second. Let's see. Yeah, that's highly uncomfortable. And also, like, it's kind of great. And also, it's not what I'm used to. So I gotta, take a break. Take a break. I mean,
yeah. And I love that perspective because it helps me zoom out a little bit. Again, sometimes in the human, I'm very like, Charles, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then my nose is like, yo, hold on a minute. We've had 28 years of this programming, girl. You got to slow down. We gotta
yep.
rewire the
It's gonna
systems
take
over
a second.
here, change the
Yeah.
cogs up a little bit,
Yep.
and that
Exactly.
makes a lot of sense. I'm like, oh shit, yeah. Like I work in the astral realm a lot, and that's my issue. Like because things are just done instantly, like because they are. And so
Yep.
sometimes I'm like, well, hey now, what the fuck? Like we just had this, now it's gone.
I
We're
know
just
that
gonna
it's done. Okay, we did this. It was easy. It was simple. I have a human body.
why are we not living this
I know
forever?
that it's happening in this reality right now.
So that makes a lot of sense. And that really made my human go, oh, like, yes. Because that was like, okay, I get it. It's testing it to see if it can handle it. And then it'll bring it back. And I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. And I don't know why common logical sense didn't think of that. But yeah, I'm vibing. I'm
It's
vibing.
it's one of those. It's like your spaceship has got to test the wires to see if they
Mm,
can hold so it doesn't blow out.
right. Like testing the fuel. Is it petrol, diesel, or a bit of
I
like
know.
magic
Fire this in
juju?
a hat. No, that's not the right direction. Okay. And it's really funny because it's like I can see my soul frequency just like walking with my body. And my body's like, I
I can only go this fast.
excuse me, I and then my soul's like, what I'm just gonna lovingly hold you right here for a while, and that's a-okay to be in. And my body's like, I think this did this a few like months ago. I think I'm just slowing you down, soul. Like
No, that was me. That was me too. And sometimes I think that, and I'm like, no, we're not going over there. No more. Not over here.
my soul's like, you know what? That's you can be exactly where you're at with that, but that's not true. And the body's like, you're right. It's not. I'm just gonna take a step. It's gonna be weird. It's like I got this tarantula and she's really great.
Oh,
She tests every one of her steps. She puts her long leg out and she's like, okay, all right, I can do that. Moves her other leg and she walks like that.
oh,
Be like, it's
that's
kind of
so
like I can see
cute.
how that so co-aligns with me, where I'm like gonna just All right. Yeah, I can hang on to
Yeah.
that one.
No, that makes so much sense. And I really did need that perspective shift. And yeah, it's just a wild ride right now. And I don't know. I think, like we've said many times, we always say this like, no one knows what the fuck's going on. That
No.
should be our tagline. Like, because
And then a
no
day,
one fucking
no one,
knows, you know?
no one does, no one ever
No.
will. That's expansion. That's like
Hmm.
as soon as I feel like I know myself and that's my truth, that's gonna shift
Literally.
real quick.
Literally.
So better keep it
Literally.
an open canvas.
100%. But yeah, I think definitely working on bringing fractals back home, using the magnet, using whatever method works for
Yep,
you. I think both me and Z offer them assisted services if you guys, connect with that, or I'm not
guided
catching
therapy.
on behalf of you, Z, but I know that we
And
do
also
some.
too, like if you do tap into that, then you're gonna be doing the work. We're just being present with you.
Yeah, exactly. Like I always say this to people because they're like, I would rather you guys do it yourselves. And my job, I always feel like, is just reminding you of your power and
Right.
guiding you back to your journey of knowing that stuff yourself. And it's really shit as a business person, but it's what I'm here to do as an energy worker. And so it's just, that's the thing, what the point is. Once you guys have a guidance and direction of your own voice, you could definitely do it on your own without us. But some people don't feel confident. It's usually confidence and knowledge. And once we gain that knowledge and confidence,
Right,
the
right.
energy just flows in.
And
So,
it is that support piece for the body too, the nervous
yeah.
system. I know for me, I do gotta tap in sometimes because my body's like, hey, just need a little bit of guidance right here. That's it, right? And you're on your way. And that's what I'm looking for with people like you're right on your way. You can I'm
Yeah.
gonna co-create with you, and also I'm just gonna sit here with you and look at that. Look, you're finding it. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
You got
No,
this.
I totally agree. That for me is why I do this. Like I used to do in-person training and like, psychic mediumship. But I realized afterwards it wasn't about that. It was about their eyes and the light in their eyes. So they'd come the first session and it was like they was lost in their little souls. And I feel like each week of connecting with spirit and energies, obviously in a guided, safe, protected way always, they would find their way back to themselves, a version of self. And
Exactly.
it was like when they left the 8 week course, it was like, oh my God, welcome home. And it wasn't about me doing anything, it was them
Exactly.
putting in the time, the energy, the
Yeah.
prioritization, and the work to actually invest in self, and to spend that time every week, spending that time connecting, connecting,
And
connecting, which
I
took
would,
them back to self.
yep.
Beautiful.
And I would say that like I've invested a lot in myself to get,
Mm-hmm.
I lots of directions, lots of pathways, and I don't regret any of it. Like all of that was necessary for me. It was an equal exchange for me to come back home. So,
100%. And yeah, I think this has been a key theme tonight, coming back home. Whatever that looks like. I was talking just on the last one, I was talking about when we were talking about joy and me feeling joy on certain terms and like certain time schedules of joy. And the other day I was thinking about it, I was like, I was really letting that aspect be free. And I realized obviously that's a part of the inner child deeply, but it's also a part of this sacral aspect that's coming in because it's expressing joy in its true self and joy in its expression of creativity and sensuality and playfulness, and all of these are connected in. So you might just have the inner child coming in with this aspect, and it might be all multifaceted. Like
right,
sometimes trying to understand it is what I'm saying is not always the thing to do. Like
right.
feel it, process it, let it go through, and then if you really need to look back and connect with it, you can. But sometimes it's just about going through it rather than even though I just said knowledge and confidence is key, it is in some cases, but sometimes it's actually about just trusting and surrendering to the experience
Absolutely.
to know that that's what we have to go through. And then you might understand it later on, you might not, but you'll know that the expansion has brought you what you needed.
Yep.
Mm.
Precisely.
Mm.
Well, I just want to bring this back into a grounded home base as the best that we can right now.
I do, yeah, if we
Back in
can.
itself. And just to do a little bit of an overview that, we have so many parts and pieces to our existence here multidimensionally, and it takes a certain amount of time and patience within our own body to discover what that is and how each part of us infinitely wants to come back, wants to integrate, what it looks like. And this is a new platform for everybody, so where we are all of us going like, oh, well, let me see. to try and really create that because that's what we're heading into is like we're creating this space and remembering that we're the ones creating the space, right?
Mhm. Right.
And getting a feel for that and being able to integrate the way that we want to and what feels good to us and coming back home to our truth and
Mhm.
what is our truth, whether that's an action step, whether that's our voice speaking up, whether that's moving, whether that's a closure of a business, like all of these things are coming back home to our truth.
Truly. And even though they might feel like it's miles away and it's not happening right now, it is actually a lot closer than you think. And that is also a message to me because I feel like that sometimes. So just hold in there, have trust, have knowing, and just go with what you've got. We have, what's your tarantula called?
Optimist.
Optimist. So let's all do an optimist and dip his toe in and then just find his little foot in.
Yep, exactly.
I love that. I love
Great
that. Yeah.
teacher.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome.
All
Well,
right.
thank you, Z. Thanks for a beautiful video and thanks for everybody that tuned in as well. It's been a really all over the wild and wonderful world tonight. But remember, this energy is available a lot of the time around the year. It's all about intentional energy, and
Yeah.
there's all different frequencies going on. So just tap into whatever feels good for you.
Whatever feels good, you can tap into this energy any day.
Yeah,
Remember that
literally.
because it's all you. At the end, you're creating it.
When we get there, that's a whole different level.
Yeah, I know. And then it's the next level of expansion. We're like, oh shit.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Well, thank you,
All
Z. It's
right.
been
Thank you so
beautiful.
much. We love you guys. Lead in, ask questions, and we'll see y'all soon.
See y'all soon.